EU countries start a massive and coordinated vaccination campaign against COVID-19. It's described as a moment of hope. But as a new coronavirus variant is spreading quickly, will the initiative be effective? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Hashem, Ahelbarra. The European Union has begun one of the world's biggest coronavirus vaccination campaigns. It aims to protect 450 million people across 27 countries. The bloc's leaders have hailed the rollout of the Pfizer-Biontec vaccine as a moment of unity and hope. A group of nurses in Rome was the first in Italy to get the jab. The country was one of the first in Europe to go into lockdown. More than 70,000 people there have died from the virus since February. One nurse who received the vaccine is urging everyone to do the same.
It is with deep pride and a great sense of responsibility that I received the vaccine today. It is a small but fundamental gesture for all of us. Science and medicine are the only means we have, together with a civic sense in each of us, which will allow us to emerge victorious from this tough battle. I say it with my heart. Let's get vaccinated.
And in Spain, the first shots went to nurses and elderly care home residents in the city of Guadalajara. The country is the second worst affected in the EU, with more than 1.8 million cases recorded. But not everyone's convinced they should get the jab.
On a personal level, I don't think I would take it right now. That's because I haven't had it, and nobody close to me has had it either. I'm not saying it's not a problem because a lot of people have died, but to be honest, I wouldn't take it right now.
It seems to me like it's good news, one of the few that we've had during the pandemic, and let's hope that a lot of people will take advantage of it.
Yes, I would take it, because it would prevent infection, also to make everybody around me safe. I think it's good.
3 countries, Hungary, Slovakia and Germany, started their inoculation campaigns a day earlier. In Berlin, a 101-year-old woman in a nursing home was among the first to be vaccinated. She admitted having doubts, but later said she's grateful to have protection from the virus.
In the beginning, when they said there's a vaccine, but the vaccine itself wasn't ready there, nobody knew which one it would be. I thought, you don't need to be one of the first. You don't really need it. But then there was no more talk about it, and I found it good to participate.
Now over to our panel in Geneva. Annie Sparrow, Professor of Population Health Science and Policy at Mount Sinai Hospital. She also is an emergency and critical care physician. In Avellino, Italy, Dr. Gloria Taliani, a Professor of Infectious Diseases at the Sapienza University of Rome. And in Rabat, Morocco, Azeddine Ibrahimi, Professor of Medical Biotechnology at Mohammed V University. Welcome to all of you. Annie, this vaccine couldn't come soon enough for hundreds of millions of people all over the world. It's kicking off in Europe. How significant is the moment?
Well, it is the moment that we have all been waiting for, and it does represent the light at the end of the tunnel, but it's still a very long tunnel. And what people aren't realizing that the vaccines are designed to prevent disease. We don't know yet whether they prevent infection. So we just listened to a woman saying, well, it will prevent infection and make me safe for other people. We don't know that yet because vaccines are only licensed on their ability to stop symptoms. If they still, if you can still have asymptomatic infection, then that's great for elderly people to stop people dying where they have so much risk and we still don't have a single effective treatment, let alone a reliable cure. But in the meantime, we're still going to have to continue with mass masking, with the lockdown mandates, and really get the messaging across that a vaccine is not an antidote yet to the economic carnage and the clinical suffering and the rising death toll. We have to do everything else that we're not doing, and that includes effective testing and use of not only of masks but of every single tool that we have in the toolkit, rather than putting all of our hopes in the biomedical basket. And there's vaccines are only as good as vaccination uptake. And across Europe, we've seen trust distorted by Orban, who plays political games with Putin over the Sputnik vaccine, and in Sweden, which suffered dreadfully in swine flu from the side effect of a narcoleptic disease. Vaccine confidence is not necessarily that high.
All right.
Don't mean to be a downer, but
all right.
there are.
Gloria, what kind of impact will the mass vaccination bring to Europe amid these unprecedented, tightened restrictions?
Well, I have to admit that this is a very special moment, because in such a short time, we passed through many unique events. And now we are ready to vaccinate everyone in short time, which is something that was not imaginable before. The politics of vaccination here in Italy is moving from the first in line, which are the doctors, and without any restriction, all the doctors, first of all, those who take care of COVID-19 patients, but thereafter all the other doctors, medical and professional of the medicine area. And immediately afterward, all the oldest and more in need for being vaccinated and protected, because they are at higher risk of having a difficult to cure and severe infection. And afterwards, all the other people to follow.
All right.
So
those are going to be the targets. For the time being, Azeddine, Ibrahimi in Morocco, you've heard both Annie and Gloria talking about light at the end of the tunnel. That's a general sentiment prevailing in Europe. Is it the same sentiment in Morocco, which has the second highest rate of infections and deaths in the African continent after South Africa? And now particularly the government is saying it's acquiring something like 65 million doses from two companies, one in China and one in the UK.
I think it's a great moment in history, not just for Morocco, but for the whole humanities. I think I'm so excited that we trusted science, and actually in 1 year, we're able actually to get this vaccine. It's really amazing, and I'm so excited that the vaccine will be here. I think the tunnel could be long, short. Well, I don't care. Actually, what I want is just to get to this vaccine. So I think in Morocco, we are just excited that the vaccine will be here. But I think for African countries, all of them, they are really preparing and ready to get the vaccine. The only problem that we have is to get to the vaccine. And I think Africa should get to the vaccine. And I think the COVAX initiative should be something interesting. And when I hear like in Europe and in the US, for example, I will just give the US example. We're planning actually to get 20 million to be given the vaccine by the end of the year, and we are not at 2 million yet. And when I hear in France like 45% just of the population is interested, I think in Africa we have the culture of vaccination. We are ready for it, and anytime we get the vaccine, I think the population will be interested to get vaccinated with the anti-COVID vaccine.
Okay, Annie, the German health minister Jens Spahn saying that the vaccine is the decisive key to end the pandemic. However, we seem to be learning by the day. Is it safe to say that the moment you get the jab, it's the beginning of a new era?
It is, and it isn't. We rely so much on vaccines. I mean, we see them as weapons of mass salvation, and they are. I mean, they have prevented the most deadly diseases, and every year they save millions of lives. But we have put all of our eggs in this one biomedical basket, and instead of sort of grounding ourselves with the tools to be able to suppress the virus or deal with new mutations. So now we have, the failure by the UK government to suppress the virus means that it has now developed 17 new mutations. It now has a total of 23, which make it much more contagious. vaccines will still work against the virus, but it will take us months to roll out mass deployment. And in the meantime, that the virus is much more contagious. And then the problem is that the limitations of vaccine uptake, it's not just about trust, it's about limited supplies and manufacturing capacity. And that is limited. And by Pfizer, for example, which is the vaccine that is chosen to roll out across Europe, is on the one hand doing that, but on the other pushing to protect intellectual property, which is in effect prioritizing people's profits over people's lives. So it's a little bit it is deeply cynical actually to put patents first at a time when the pandemic means we're not going to be safe until we're all safe. And while poorer countries are just a plane ride away, and because vaccines, unless you have 100%, a very highly effective vaccine at stopping spread and high uptake, which is going to take months, then this sort of me first vaccine nationalistic approach, works against us. And we're right. I mean, Africa has a fantastic vaccination culture, and this is an extraordinary step. But we could easily ruin it all and sort of squander it by, lack of leadership and inability to actually really understand that we need more than just vaccines.
Okay,
it's not that simple.
Gloria, are we likely to say those who were very skeptical about the vaccine roll up their sleeves this time and say, yes, I would like to get the jab myself?
Oh, yes, sure. It's quite common because most of the people who say, I will not be vaccinated, I don't want to be vaccinated, do not really know what the vaccine contains, how does it work, and they are mainly afraid of a new vaccine production technique. And therefore, it's very easy to convince some skeptical people that the vaccine is safe. In its technical arrangement, is the safest we have ever experienced, and it sounds to be very effective and without significant side effects. And therefore, I have convinced myself, many colleagues and friends, that the vaccine should be done. But what I think is mainly important to think about is that many people who will not discuss or in any case will not admit that the vaccine is a conqueror, by the end have discovered by themselves that the only way we have to stop the spreading of the virus is to have a vaccine. And they claimed to have a vaccine in loud voice, while in the previous months it was difficult even to make them accept a flu vaccine or vaccination for their kids. But therefore, it's really a change of the mind of many people who, in front of evident risk, accept an evident benefit that they never accepted. They have never accepted before.
And that's the hope. That's the hope, is that those perceptions will have to change in the near future when they see the momentum building up towards more vaccination. Azeddine, Morocco is acquiring doses from two companies, Sinopharm and AstraZeneca. However, when you look at both drug makers, Sinopharm, for example, is still conducting late-stage clinical trials in some countries, while AstraZeneca is in its advanced trials in the UK and the US in particular. Are the authorities confident it's a good choice, it's about time, and it's very safe to administer to Moroccans?
Well, I think it's a question that I get all the time, but I have to clear out one thing. All the vaccines, then they didn't finish their third step for the third phase of trials. All the Moderna, Pfizer, because you need a year to finish it. So nobody did finish it actually, like Sinopharm or AstraZeneca. So just to make it clear, we need 1 year to finish the trials. And what we are getting as authorization, it's emergency use for all these vaccines. So they are comparable, and I think what was not published actually is the result of this phase for Sinopharm and for AstraZeneca. AstraZeneca, part of it was published, and they are coming soon. I think as soon as they will be authorized emergency use in, I think AstraZeneca is asking for the emergency use this week, and I think Sinopharm got the authorization emergency use from China, from Bahrain, from EUE, and soon I think they will have the authorization use in Morocco. So I think we are very confident because we are all the published data are clear about it, and I think that's something that will be safe and effective. And the effectiveness is really will be demonstrated.
But still, effectiveness is an issue that I would like to discuss with Annie.
Yep.
A vaccine is effective, is shown to be effective in preventing the spread of the virus. People are not developing the symptomatic cases of COVID-19 the moment they get the jab. However, will it be able to stop the spread of the virus? Will it be able to tackle the new variant which is spreading in different parts of the European continent? Do we know? Do we have any answers?
We just have a couple. We do know that the Moderna vaccine has showed that roughly 2/3 of the people who had the vaccine showed less transmission, less asymptomatic infection, as it were. But this is the thing that, vaccines are licensed only on the ability of only on the basis of their ability to prevent disease. Now, that is the basis on which they're licensed. So it's going to take a few more months, to do the phase 4 trials, which then show us whether it stops spread. And, that's what we need to know, because it's the young adults who are asymptomatically infected who do most of the spread. And we have no clue about whether or not it stops asymptomatic infection or prevents onward spread for those who are infected. And since we know there's so much asymptomatic infection in COVID anyway, it's going to make it even harder to know, if spread is happening. So, it is very likely, having said all that, it is very likely that we'll see, something like probably 75% effectiveness in preventing spread. That's great. You can do the maths and think, okay, if we need to, we have a highly contagious virus, but it already was doing very well, thanks very much, without this new highly contagious mutation. Put that on top of the mix, and you see the countries in Britain and so forth that are, this very, very steep rise, then it makes it much, much harder to achieve herd immunity because you need, a much higher level of uptake. Now, we already have this terrible distrust of authorities based on, the US is an evidence-free zone and the virus has been so politicized, and so have vaccines. So it just makes it harder to actually achieve what we need to achieve right now. And that's where, putting, having no other, methods or tools or strategies, and they are there, like mass testing, at home can help us tell whether we're infected immediately, but we have failed to put in social protections or financial incentives, and we're using a test which can't tell whether or not you're contagious. And that's how we've ended up where we are now.
Fascinating the way we're just learning more and more on a daily basis about COVID-19, the way it moves, the way it could potentially mutate, its impact on our livelihood. Gloria, those who got the vaccine, do we know whether they could pose any threat to their loved ones who are unvaccinated?
Well, the examination, it's necessary to exclude from the first wave of vaccine all people who have been infected and asymptomatic, of course. And therefore, we have to plan, and we did it, to plan extensive examination of the potential vaccinees at this time. And therefore, of course, especially in the first time of vaccine administration, there's the need of controlling the effect. And also the need to control if other antibodies, other than the anti-spikes, have been produced by the persons showing the potential occurrence of an asymptomatic infection, because the symptomatic ones will be discovered by the clinics, of course. it's a very important machinery that is moving forward in terms of activities and organization, and all the plans of the vaccination are very, very difficult to perform, and mostly because of the temperature of the vaccine that must be kept under 70 for a long time, and for the distribution time. And so it's a very demanding operation, but we are ready to do it.
Perfect. Demanding, daunting, but we have faith in science. Azeddine, there's this sentiment among many people, because they're just waiting to get some very positive good news, that the moment you inoculate 60 to 70% of the population, this is it. It's the end of an era, the beginning of another one. Is it fair to say at this particular moment that when we get to that threshold, our day-to-day will change, the precautions will have to be shelved, and it's going to be a brighter, better day?
Well, I think it's a philosophical question. What does mean a normal life after the COVID? It's something that everybody has to think about it. And I think definitely myself, I'll be thinking about it, and you'll be thinking about it. But I think I have to be just very cautious, actually. I think we need to have the first phase that will be actually protecting the people at risk. And I think that will be the first phase. And after that will be the second phase to get the maximum of vaccination. And I think through this period until June, I think we'll be very cautious, actually, to keep our barrier gesture. And I think that's something will be interesting. The other thing, we are facing the evolution of the virus, and I think many variants will be coming soon, and we have to do the vigilance and the surveillance for that, just to make it clear that we'll not get to another wave of another variant of the virus, and that's something very interesting.
All right, and
the third thing.
Go ahead.
Just to finish with that, I think if Western countries, they don't want to use their vaccines, in Africa, we need them, just send us to us, we'll be using them.
And I hope they get the message, and I hope we see vaccines flying all over the places, getting to all those remote, desolate places where people are really badly in need for those vaccines, which have completely shattered lives. Annie, I would like to ask you this question about how long will the immunity from the vaccine last? Are we going to say 1, 2 doses, this is it? Or are we going to be in a position where in the near future we'll have to update the vaccines like we're doing with the flus, because this is something which is going to stay with us forever?
Well, I'm sorry to say I don't know again. The best answer is probably up to 5 years. At best case scenario, they could provide protection. And I'm talking about the mRNA platforms, Moderna in particular, Pfizer is another one. But, the thing is that reinfection cases are increasingly being reported. So we don't actually know how long natural immunity lasts. And you hear different things every day, right? Antibodies are very effective or they're not. But reinfection is happening, and probably it's happening much more broadly, except that we're not looking for it and we're not testing properly. So that in and of itself is a problem. And then there's the fact that we have the new mutations, which mean that they can evade the vaccines. And then we have the fact that it circulates between minks and snakes, pigs, to a lesser degree, cattle, dogs, cats, domestic dogs and cats even. And that recirculation means it can also then mutate more rapidly. And the fact that it has an animal reservoir, and we still don't even know what it is, means that we're not going to get rid of this. It's going to be endemic. So best case is that we could have a couple of years. Then you can always have booster effects. But it also means that when you do need to produce a new vaccine according to a new strain, well, then you have to go through the whole process all over again. So certainly the vaccines like the J&J, for example, that are a single dose vaccine and can be stored in a regular fridge are much easier to roll out and distribute.
But at least there is this sense of hope now, which is starting to trickle in after months and months of anxiety, panic and fear about a disease which has shattered lives, changed our lifestyle beyond recognition. And this explains why I think Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission President, said this is a touching moment of unity in the European continent. I just do hope that this spread all over the world. Annie Sparrow, Gloria, Taliani, Azeddine, Ibrahimi, I really appreciate your insight. Looking forward to talking to you in the near future. Thank you too for watching. You can see the program again anytime by visiting our website, aljazeera.com. For further discussion, go to our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. You can also join the conversation on Twitter. Our handle is @AJ Inside Story. From me, Hashem, Ahelbarra, and the entire team here in Doha. Bye for now.